Hi, this is Craig with Gertech, and I am going to walk you through the batch mixer simulation on the LogixPro simulator. So this customer wanted this to operate in 3 different modes. So let's go ahead and start it. So as you can see here in mode A, pumps 1 and 2 run in unison, so you get a 50-50 mix here. And in mode B, what you can do is you can put a different or put a set point in here, and in mode B, what will happen is pump 1 will pump to this value, and then pump 2 will fill in the rest of the tank. In mode C, what will happen is pump 2 will fill this value, and then pump 1 will fill in the rest of the tank. So that's what that is used for. And as you can see, the customer wanted it to fill up the tank, warm up the fluid to a certain set point, mix it for 8 seconds once it's all in there and full, and then when that's done, drain it all out. And so let's go ahead and look at the logic to see how I went about doing that. So first we have the S115 first pass bit. This is the bit that will only activate the very first time that you put your controller into run. The first scan that it does, this will be true, but no other time will this be true. So this is good for clearing out values and unlatching bits and things like that. They're helpful, but they're also dangerous, so use them with caution. Okay, so next we have the start button latch and light controls. So this is actually a seal, not a latch, but basically when you hit the start button and the stop button is not being pressed, it will turn on the run light. And then the run light being turned on for a split second will activate this bit, and that will seal in this light being active, which is the run light. And I use that as my start stop, essentially my start stop control of everything. So when you hit the stop button, it'll break this circuit, and this will turn off. And then the other lights are pretty self-explanatory. So next we have the inflow set point controls. That is over here. So as you can see, this right here is our integer that we're going to take from the display, FRD, from the display, and move it right into this integer to hold it, that value in place. And that will happen when this becomes active, which is this enter button. So if you watch, right now we're at 0, and I have it set for 125, and boom, 125. So that's how that works, and it moves it over here. Now what we're doing over here on these two is we're creating a virtual point or a virtual bit, and what we're going to do is we're saying, hey, when in this case pump 1, when that value is less than or equal to this, I want you to fire this bit. And over here at pump 2, we have just, same thing for pump 2. So when pump 2, if it's less than or equal to the input value, then we're going to fire this bit. And then we're going to use them down here in the pump controls. And in our pump controls, we have our 3 different modes, right? So as you can see, mode A, there's no special qualifiers to make it go through. It's just A, and then the run interlock, the high level being not true, and the drain pump not running, and the mixer being engaged, because we do this because we want to make sure that this fluid is getting mixed up as it's filling up, um, just to make sure things are getting stirred in. Your final product is nice and mixed. So that's our general qualifiers there to activate the pump. So in mode A, like I said, it's just straight through 50/50. And mode B, what we have here is our virtual bits that we just made up above. So again, once it's or when it's less than or equal to the set point, this becomes true, and we activate pump 1. When it's greater than our set point, pump 2 kicks in. And then in mode C, it's just opposite. So we have pump 2 being true till the set point, and then once the set point is been reached, then pump 1 kicks in. Okay, so same bit, opposite states. That's how you do that. Okay, so next we're looking at pump 3, which is our drain pump. And again, we need the running interlock. And we want to make sure, before we drain it, we want to make sure that it's reached the temperature of our set point. And we want to make sure that it has mixed for at least the 8 seconds that the customer wanted it to mix. Now, sometimes, depending on the temperature that you set it at, it will take longer for the temperature to become true before it'll take longer for the temperature to become true than it will the 8 seconds that it takes the mixer to run. So this is it's just how it is sometimes. So it's at least 8 seconds. And we want to make sure that the low level is not that this sensor is active. In other words, we want to make sure that there's something in the tank here. All right, or yeah, so as long as there's something in the tank, and this is saying that there's something in the tank, pump 3 is able to pop on for that 1 split second, or for however long it needs to. And then pump 3, once it comes on, it'll seal in right here. And what this will do is this will keep it pumping down if the temperature drops, and if for whatever reason something happens here and this were to reset, but mostly it's the temperature that would cause this to turn off, because as you drain the you'll notice that the temperature falls at a faster rate the lower that the fluid gets. So that's why you keep this sealed in, so that this can keep draining and it won't end up burning out this bit by firing rapidly. And we actually do something similar to that down here in the heater, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So next we have the mixer controls here. So the mixer controls are pretty straightforward. So we want this mixer timer to be running. Okay, so TT means that it's active in some form of the way, I'm sorry, not in some form of the way, but that it's actually in the counting mode of the timer on. So it's kind of like the opposite state of done, but it's not fully opposite, because fully opposite would be not done. So this means that it's engaged, but it's not done yet. So that's what TT means on your timers. They can be very useful. So anyways, as I was saying, so for the mixer, one of the qualifiers, this is an OR statement right here. When you parallel just like this means essentially OR. And when you go like this, it's essentially AND. So this is series, this is parallel. So here we have this to run the mixer, either the timer is on or our heater is on, because we don't want our heater to burn up our element. So what can happen if for the people that are newer, what can happen is say this is hydraulic fluid, and that's it's in an environment that it can get a bit colder. So this is why you need um, a um, a heater, right? So this is why you have this stuff. So what will happen is sometimes you got to heat up your oil to get it to the right viscosity before you pump it through your motors on the like big compressors and stuff. And so what'll happen is you need to heat this up, but a lot of times because it's oil, it'll be electric heating elements. And when you have your heating elements all the way over here and your thermostat all the way over here, and it's not a controlled environment and it's colder, it's cold, and this is thick, what'll happen is all of your hot oil will stay over here and it'll take too long to get over here. And over time, you're going to burn up your heating elements. So this is a reason why we want the heater, whenever the heater's on, we want the mixer on because we want this to stir so that that way, no matter what is going on, we know that the fluid is going to be as close to evenly mixed as far as temperature wise as possible to prevent damage to hardware. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So those are the two things for the mixer. Now to activate the timer, it's pretty simple. Once this says, "Hey, I'm full," right? This becomes true. Timer starts counting. Okay, so next we have the heater control. So with the heater control to make because it's a simulation, what you could do is you could just say, hey, if the thermostat is not happy, then turn on my heater. That's what these two mean. Now, what I did because I want to keep good practice for the real world is I basically put in a greater than or equal to for my totalizer, which is down here, and we'll get to that next. But what's that saying is it allows me to say that, hey, once my count is 10 or below, stop firing the heater. Because what happens is, as I said, the temperature it falls faster the lower the fluid gets. And what will happen is this will just sit here and flicker on and off the lower it gets. And what will happen is you will burn up your output bit for your heater on your card, or do damage to something else down the road. But most likely it would be right on your card. And so this is just to they basically give it a dead space where the temperature is not in the real world. It wouldn't react like at that rate, and it, it wouldn't be quite as necessary. But in the real world, it would it's just dead band to protect your bit. So here it's a heater. It might be something else, in that you're wanting to protect in the real world. So keep things like that in mind. You don't want to burn out. You want to prevent flickering of your bits. It's not good for the hardware. Okay, so next we have our counts and how we keep track of how much fluid is, or in this case, fluid coming into the mixer. So this is pretty straightforward. Basically, in this simulation, our flow meters are a pulse. It's a pulse meter. In the real world, it would most likely be an analog flow meter, which is a different beast, but it's pretty easy to handle. But what makes this kind of unique for this situation that I want to kind of point out is so you need to use, whenever you're using a counter is going to count for as long as it sees this whatever condition in front of it as being true or satisfied. So that the problem is it's not consistent. The amount of times that the amount of scans that it sees this bit active is not consistent. So it might be on for one pulse from the meter, but over here at the counter, it may count one pulse as 5. It might count the next one as 7, the next one as 3. You know, it's erratic. So that's why you use this one shot. Now in this simulator, one shots are OSRs, which if you're on at least an Allen Bradley controller, it's going to be an ONS is a one shot. An OSR on an Allen Bradley controller is a one shot rising, and they have OSFs, I believe they are, which is a one shot falling, which is a different type of a bit, and it's a little bit more complex. But the bit that looks like this on an Allen Bradley ladder logic system is going to look like this, but it's going to be ONS. But either way, it's doing the same thing. It just is one of the little quirks about this simulator. But hey, it's okay. So basically, so what this one shot does is saying no matter how long this is on, I'm only going to count it as once for everything over here. So you can have 5, 6, whatever, however many qualifiers you need over here, throw in a one shot, and everything, no matter how many times it flickers on and off, well, that's not true, but how many times it's on that it's scanned, it's only going to count it as one time for everything to the right of it. So they're very, very useful. So this is for our counts for our pump one, flow meter 1, pump 1 system, and this is for flow meter 2, pump 2 system. So next is our totalizer, which is basically we're just literally adding up our counters 1 and 2, and that way we know how much total product we have in our batch mixer. Okay, so to activate this, what I did is whenever the pumps 1 or 2 are on, either one of them, we're gonna add. Okay, so next we have a countdown, which is literally the opposite of our count ups up here, and this is for our flow meter for our drain system. Okay, so again, it's the exact same setup. It's just subtracting from the totalizer instead of counting up and then being added in. It's just counting. It's literally subtracting down from the totalizer. And then next we have basically our empty tank reset. So once the low level sensor essentially goes off, it makes this satisfied, and over here we just go ahead and reset our counts for our flow meters, for our input our inflow flow meters. Okay, and then our very last line down here, let me scroll it up a little bit. Our very last line down here is our display to the totalizer, or our display of the totalizer count right here. So this is a TOD and it's to display. Okay, and your source is our totalizer count, and our destination is right here, 04. Let me hover over that so it shows up 04, and that's your digital numerical display on your control panel. Okay, so I think this has actually been running in A mode this entire time. Let me kick it over to B so we can see how that kicked over. So as you can see, it's just pump 1 pumping, and then when it hits that value, pump 2 is going to kick on. There we go. All right. And then pump C is just the opposite. So that's how this system works. Thanks for watching.